welding. So it helps us to get rid of the physical joints where we leave the gap for expansion and contraction. And being the weakest point, it creates several problems. There are maintenance costs related to fixation of nuts, bolts. Then there can be discomfort experienced by the passenger. There will be noise. There will be moving parts of the rolling stock, which affects the health of the train and many other things. Then we saw different methods of welding. There are 4 different methods. Out of them, we tried to see which one is good from the reliability point of view, which one is movable, mobile option, or which one needs to be done at the factory or manufacturing unit or some other plant. So best one where I have shown you a video was the thermit welding. Okay. Then we talked about the welded rails, short welded rails where 3, 5, 7, 10 rails are joined together with the help of welding. Then we saw something which is known as long welded rails. Okay, long welded rail in case of Indian Railway, it ranges greater than 250 meter in case of broad gauge and 300 meter in case of meter gauge. And we saw something which is known as continuous welded rail. So when the length of the rail is more than 1 kilometer, so sometimes it extends from one station to another. Then we saw some specific terms, scientific terms related to long welded rail. So if you look at the whole stretch of the long welded rails, at the end portion we have something which is known as breathing length. Breathing length is the portion where the rail extends or it contracts. There is some portion in the middle which is shown here. It is known as non-breathing length. So the manufacturing process or the rolling process is such that we do something with the material of the rail that there will not be any contraction or expansion in the middle portion. So this is known as non-breathing length, and the portion at the sides, the one which I marked here, are basically the breathing length. Okay, here we have something which is equivalent to the joint here or here. We call them switch expansion joint. We have seen some photos. Here is one rail, here is another rail. We have some special kind of mechanism. Here is a gap, here is another gap, and here you can see this rail is not having the same cross section as earlier. Here also we do not have the same cross section. So I have shown you some photos, some photo where I have visited some of the railway track with my son, and some kind of special fastening systems. These are close-up photos. Here you can see that we have kept a gap for the expansion and contraction of this particular portion. Similarly, we have space on the other side. So the length of the long welded rail for this particular rail, it is up to this point. For this rail, it is up to this point. Okay, so there are nuts and bolts. There are some different kind of device that we have used here. This is concrete slipper. The photo I have earlier here, it is wooden slipper. And as you can see that there are gaps for expansion and contraction. So we expect that the rails will be expanding or contracting. So in order to have more stability of the slipper, they do not move along with the rail. We use some shorter rails in order to fix the slipper with some kinds of devices so that the stability is being maintained. Here also you can see, here we do not have rail but some kind of metal component which is fixing the slipper in order to have more stability. Here you can see that it is not rail. but some metal part which has been fixed. Here also same thing. This is the other side of the fastening. Then we also talked about something known as buffer rail. These are special kind of rails we have seen earlier, but nowadays we do not use them. The main issue is the maintenance. So when we replace the traditional joint with the buffer rails, we saw that the maintenance cost is not going to reduce significantly. So we do not use this on Indian Railway, discontinued for Indian Railway tracks. We also talked about the location where we should not use long welded rail. So new construction or where line is being doubled, because earlier there was a single line. So we do not use long welded rail until and unless there is mechanical compaction of the earthwork. The reason is that when you go for manual compaction, over the time there will be some sort of sinking. And you can understand when you have a 250-meter rail, long rail, and some portion the land is being sunk, so there will be problem. There will be problem in the alignment, there will be problem in the cross level. So until and unless we go for mechanical compaction of the earth, we do not recommend installation of the long welded rail. So approval of chief engineer is required. Then some other special location where we should not have the installation of the long welded rail. Okay, yielded surface, soil susceptible to pumping, heavy contamination of the ballast where you have to replace the ballast, do the screening. We do not go for long welded rail. You have to remember that long welded rail is having substantial length. So it is not that you have one single rail length of 12 meter to 13 meter. You simply remove it, then remove the slipper, clean the ballast and again put the rail. No, it is not that much easy in case of long welded rail. So more than 200 meter, approximately 250 meter, less than 1 kilometer, it is very tough to do. Okay, so we do not recommend installation of long welded rail at certain location, and where we have frequent flood, subsidence, sinking of land, there also we do not go for the long welded rails. Now there is one numerical that we have to solve, that is related to the theory of LWR, long welded rails. Okay, this is based upon the theory of expansion and contraction. We have seen the setup of switch expansion joint is such that there is provision for the rail getting elongated or contracted. So the expansion that we will be observing in a particular track or the member of a track, which is rail, it is a function of some different parameters. What are those? One is coefficient of linear expansion of rail material. So what is the material that we are using in order to roll the rail? Second one is length of rail. And third one is the temperature variation. The range of temperature a particular railway section is exposed to. Now, when we are using switch expansion joint, we are using nuts and bolts or other devices in order to fix the rail to the slipper. Even we are putting some sort of metal bar in the middle so that the slippers do not move. Okay, the alignment is being maintained. Obviously, we are restricting the movement of the rail. Okay, and you know that the whole track is embedded in this ballast. So it has been observed this restriction that we are putting or imposing on the rail that gives rise to expansion, that gives rise to some stresses. Now that stress is thermal stress. Why? Because everything is happening due to the temperature variation. That temperature variation could be due to the temperature which is there on the at the site, or it can be even due to the dynamic loading. So stresses will be developed. What kind of stresses? Thermal stresses. So there will be thermal forces which we represent in terms of kg or ton. So there is a small formula where P stands for the thermal force. There is alpha, there is T, there is E and A. So alpha, it is coefficient of thermal expansion, which is a material property. T is the temperature rise above rail laying temperature. A is cross-sectional area of the rail section. So when you have a 50 kg rail, I have one example that the cross-sectional area is 66.15 centimeter square. When you go for 60 kg rail, 90 R rail, 75 R rail, 50 R rail, those cross-section will change. Okay, this is just one example. It is not uniform across all the different rail sections. Then we have one more property which is included in the formula, which is elastic modulus or modulus of elasticity for the rail steel. So this is property of the rail. This is property of the rail steel. This is the rail section. So everywhere we are talking about rails. And last one is, there is one more formula, 31.5 ST. S is sectional weight. Okay, kg per meter. It is 52 kg per meter or 60 kg per meter, or you have solved problem related to 90 R. So how many kg per meter you will be able to tell it. So this is the formula. So we will solve a problem. There is one more small equation that you people have to remember, which is cumulative value of expansion and contraction. So what is the amount of expansion or contraction that we will be expecting at a particular location? Now, whenever we are saying a location, obviously we are talking about LWR, and you know the middle portion of the LWR or the non-breathing length of the LWR does not expand or contract. So only it is related to the breathing length. So that's why it is written that cumulative value of expansion and contraction at the breathing length. Here L is the length of breathing length, and alpha T we have seen in the previous slide. So alpha is coefficient of friction of thermal expansion, which is property of the rail, and T is the temperature variation. Okay, in case of broad gauge on Indian Railway, breathing length is taken 100 meter on one side of the BG track. So 100 meter on one side, 100 meter on the other side. In the middle there will be some portion where it is not expanding or contracting, non-breathing length. So based upon your understanding so far, you have seen that when I have shown a slide on LWR, I said length of LWR is minimum of 250 meter. Okay, now when I say breathing length is 100 meter on one each end, so 100 meter, minimum 50 meter in the middle. Okay. So breathing length, non-breathing length. This is one long welded rail section. Okay. In case of meter gauge, it is 150 meter on each side. So 150 meter on the extreme right, 150 meter on the left hand side. In the middle, you have non-breathing length. Example problem. Calculate the minimum theoretical length of LWR beyond which central portion of the rail would not be subjected to any thermal expansion. So minimum theoretical length, and then we have been given certain values, certain data. So it says coefficient of thermal expansion, it says variation in temperature, cross-sectional area, modulus of elasticity. Then it talks about something which is slipper spacing. You people know what does it mean by slipper spacing. Slipper spacing is represented either m plus x or xxxx per kilometer. Okay, when we had nuts and bolt kind of fittings, this was more popular. So m plus x means how many slippers within one rail length. So 12 meter or 13 meter, how many within that rail length. And this one is 1660, 1680 slippers per kilometer. Okay, there is one more data which is given here. Average restraining force per slipper per rail is 300 kg. So what is the force being exerted by the slipper on the rail? Because we have fixed some kind of devices. Okay, so that's why there is stresses getting generated. So we know how to calculate the force, the thermal force that will be generated because of this restriction imposed on the rail. So how to calculate it? Okay. So from the formula we have seen that it is P. So let me solve this. So all of you please solve it. Hopefully the whiteboard will come. Oh, how do I clean this? How do I write? Okay, P is equal to, so we have seen a formula, alpha E A T. Okay, alpha value is given. Alpha is basically coefficient of thermal expansion or contraction, 2.15 multiplied by 10 to the power 6. This is alpha. E. E is given as modulus of elasticity, right? 2 into 10 to the power 6. You have to be careful about the units. Yeah. This is E. A is cross-sectional area. This is given as 66.15 multiplied by temperature variation. As I have asked, it is 30. Okay. So if you go for the calculation of this, how much you are getting? No, sorry. I put something wrong. Coefficient of thermal expansion and contraction is different. Sorry. Sorry guys. Is basically 11.5 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. Okay, now it is correct. So alpha value is given as 11.5 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. E value, which is modulus of elasticity of rail steel, is given as 2 into 10 to the power 6. A is the cross-sectional area as per the problem given to you. It is 52 kg rail, so it is 66.15 centimeter square. Then we have the temperature variation, which is given as 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, so these two are gone. 10 to the power minus 6, 10 to the power 6 gone. So 11.5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 66.15 multiplied by 30 is giving how much? $45.6 ton. Okay. So we got this value, which is nothing but the thermal force P. Now I am erasing it. I am keeping the last line. Now one more statement is given. It says that the average restraining force per slipper per rail is 300 kg. So resistance which is being offered by per slipper, each slipper is 300 kg. Okay. Just hold on. How to go to that screen? Suddenly my whiteboard became invisible. Yes, now it is coming. So you people can see my screen. Hello? Hello guys.
Yes, sir.
This is the thermal force, which is 45.6 ton. This is resistance being offered per slipper, which is 0.3 ton. So now we need to see what is the number of slippers we required to restrain a force. How we will be getting it? We know it is 45.6 ton, which is being generated. This will give you the number of slippers that we need. So as per my calculation, it is 152 slippers. This 152 slippers, you have to remember that we are talking about breathing length. So when we say that at one end of the breathing length, at one end of the LWR, which is nothing but breathing length, this much force is getting generated. This is the restraint that can be provided by one slipper. This 152 slipper is nothing but how many slippers we need at each end of the LWR. At each end of the LWR, or we can say how many slippers we need at one breathing length. Okay, in this case, this is 152. So if breathing length is 152 and we know the slipper spacing, so slipper spacing is given as 65 centimeter. How many slippers we need? We understood is 152 slippers. So from these two, we get an idea that in order to lay 152 slippers, how much length we require, because we know the slipper spacing. We know the distance between two consecutive slippers. So how much it is? So this is a long welded rail. We have non-breathing length. We have breathing length on this side. We have breathing length on the other side. We know 152 slippers. We know 152 slippers. We know the slipper spacing. So if we know the slipper spacing, we will be able to tell what is the length here. What is this length? Breathing length. Okay. So what is the breathing length? Anybody? Approximately
So shouldn't it be 151?
yes, ideally it should be, but try to see this photo. Where is that? Just hold on. Yes, now whether we are including this slipper or not, right? So you are saying that if there are 3 slippers, there are spacing for 2, right? That we are saying, right, Kirat?
Yes, sir.
So 152 slippers means 151 spacing. Yeah. So how much it is coming as per your calculation?
So I haven't multiplied it. I'll just do that.
Okay.
So it's 98.15 meters.
With 151?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So what I will do, as you people were not responding, I thought why not to tell something for which you will be protesting. You will be raising your voice. So good. Okay. So 98 point something, but we make it 100. So 100 where we have seen it? When we were discussing about breathing length, remember that at the end portion of the breathing length discussion, I said that it is 100 meter in case of broad gauge. Sorry, just hold on. So now if I ask you people that what is the length of LWR? What else do you need?
Non-breathing length.
Yes. So if the non-breathing length is given, 50 meter ho, 60 meter ho, 100 meter ho, you need to add that. So suppose it is given as 100 meter. So what is the length of LWR, Anirudh?
300.
Yes. I don't know why you people make so much mistakes in the exam. Not you, but your seniors. Many a time they either did not multiply it with 2 or they did not add up the non-breathing length. Okay. So that's the right answer. So 300 meter. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
So now you see the question. So the question was, what is the minimum theoretical length? What does it mean? What does it mean by theoretical? If you look at the problem statement, you will be able to see that I asked for minimum theoretical length. It means the length of the section where the rail will be experiencing expansion and contraction. So minimum theoretical length of LWR is basically the length of breathing length portion in an LWR. Okay. So I think you people will be able to solve the problem. Then there is one more related term. Now as we are welding and we are going for really many number of rails, there will be distress. There will be stresses that will be getting generated. So that actually jeopardize, that affect the railway alignment. There can be buckling, there can be derailment, there can be accidents, there will be death. So sometimes we need to go for distressing in case of welded rail. How do we distress in case of long welded rail or continuously welded rail? Any idea? It is not written in this particular slide. I don't know whether you people can see the slide or I have to share my screen once again.
Can't see.
Yes,
Cannot
sir, we
see.
can still see the whiteboard only.
Okay, now I think it is visible.
Yes, sir.
There is a term called distressing. So many a times we say that we are distressed. So that particular spelling is different. That is distress, D-I-S-T-R-E-S-S. But here you can see this is relieving the stresses that is getting generated in long welded rail or continuously welded rail. Okay. So distressing is done by doing something. What is that? This is not shown in this particular slide. Any idea how we'll be able to do it? Let us see a small video. Screen 1. You people can see my YouTube screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So heading real distressing. So they have a special truck Now see how the track is moving along the railway track. See here, some kind of setup which is similar to rail wheels. What they are doing, they're simply cutting it. They're cutting the rail. Then once they cut the rail, what they will be doing? Finally, it is not shown here. What they will be doing, any guess?
Welding.
Welding, correct. See this device here. This is hydraulically operated machine. So this is the mold that they use for the welding. Which welding method they are using? When they have mold, they will put some powder.
Thermite.
Which is thermite. What are the powders?
Ferric oxide and aluminate.
Yes, then after the reaction, Fe will come out, Al2O3 will be remaining, and there will be huge temperature rise. They need to fix the cross level as well as the alignment. So rail anchor we have seen during the discussion of crimping. Smoothening of the rail surface. There is foreign metal, so we need to do some polishing. Okay, so I have included the video link in the portion of the at the bottom portion of the slide, so people can see it later. Okay, so this is end of the welded rail. Now I thought that I will be discussing about the fastening, but I saw that there are so many things to remember. I have postponed the discussion of fastening. Okay, and I will directly go to the geometric design component as you people are working with the course project. So regarding the course project, I want to say that I saw that during the morning hour, no students were ready to present their topic. So we are left with very few weeks. So you people have to decide, come up with the date. The last day of presentation is going to be 26 November. And as I am distressed, I am really upset with you people. I will not go beyond 26 November. And I do not want to spend extra time कि सर ये वीकेंड में दे देते हैं, उस दिन शाम को दे देते हैं. Yes, no, I cannot sit down. Okay, so you people have to see that for the next month how we will be accommodating your project presentation. So geometric design of the track. So initially I'll be talking about train derailments. We have talked about train derailments earlier in certain instances when I gave you the example of the different kind of coaches or wagons that we use. We had some photo. At the same time, when I was giving the example of the Muzaffarnagar train accident, the Utkal Express train accident, which happened in a place called Khatoli in Uttar Pradesh. So there I said like they were doing some maintenance, but which is not routine maintenance. They replaced some portion of the rail section and they did not let the driver or the station masters of the previous station that the train has to move very slowly because we are doing some kind of maintenance. We put a rail section which is not very stable. So the train was traveling at a speed of more than 80 kilometer. So there was accident, derailment. So train derailment that happens due to various reasons, many reasons. Okay. One example I have given, there are many other examples. If you read the newspaper article, you will be able to see that there are unique cases of bridge collapse. There are removal of fish plates, welding has come out or something happened. Okay, so safety and stability of the track vehicles we need to see. And obviously we will be considering the situation when the train is moving, when it is dynamic movement is going on. So people have tried various things, academician, industry people, consultant, they try to understand that why the train accident happened. They try to establish the reason. They identified many factors which can be classified into three different groups. One is defects related to the track defects, vehicular defects. So anything related to rolling stock, it can be related to engine, it can be related to wheel, axle, journal box where friction is going on, any other moving parts. And last one is operational defects. Two trains collided with each other coming from two opposite direction, or one train was stagnant, the other train was passing through the platform. The driver could not see a train standing. So those kind of accidents come under the operational defects related to signal, related to whether the platform is empty or not, those things. Okay, now when we say civil engineer, I know that this is the era of multidisciplinary things, so we should not only talk about civil engineers, but based upon the things that we learned during this class, we will be able to talk a little bit about the track defects and some sort of operational defects. What kind of signaling, what kind of interlocking that we can do to make sure that there is no involvement of the human error. And track defects, we need to see how we will make sure that all the track components are in shape. So here is one more photo of train accidents. So railway track needs to be designed properly. First one is no train. It is very unlikely that train is not having any load because each wheel is having load. Then there are axle, there are wheelbase, there are coaches, compartments, bogies. So obviously there will be load. And at the same time, you do not expect that the train will be traveling either not traveling or traveling with a very slow speed. It will be traveling with a high speed. So speed of the train also we need to put under consideration. So we need to make sure that the train is safe. At the same time, it is efficient. At the same time, the economy is being maintained. We are not going for excessive expenditure. So we need to meet all the things. We need to optimize our problem. So what kind of problem we see in case of derailment? There can be defects on the straight track, on the curved track, at the points and crossing location. So what are the different types of problem? In case of straight track, there can be elongation of gauge. So instead of 1.676 meter, we saw that it is 1.680 meter. Okay. So there will be problem. The alignment can be an issue. So you can see up to this portion, the train line was going like this. Here also it is going like this. The line should come like as per the dotted line, but here there is a bend. So the alignment has changed. It could be related to derailment. It could be related to the thermal stresses that is getting generated because of the presence of the joint, switch expansion joint or normal joint. So alignment, at the same time cross level. Here is one rail, here is another rail. So when we have left a gap, wheel is going to hit this particular location. Sometimes the gap gets increased. Sometimes you will be able to see the level difference between the two rail is significant. Like one rail has gone down with respect to the other rail. So difference in the cross level. So which is known as low joints. So one rail, another rail with a drop in the height. So these are problematics. For these accidents will happen. As soon as accident happen, the train will be getting derailed. It will fall apart. So curved track, there are some unique features related to curved location. First one is related to super elevation. Second one is related to the radius of the curve. Whether it is really sharp curve or really large curve, whether curve has been designed properly. And when they are negotiating a curve, what is the speed the driver is maintaining? Whether there is a particular speed they need to go, beyond that it is unsafe for them or similar. Over turnout locations, what are the things, what are the problems that can happen? That can be related to points and crossing. So this is a right hand turnout. These are the locations we call points. This is the location we call crossing. Yeah. So we have seen that there is special shape of the sleeper at point location. The shape of the ballast is also unique in case of points and crossing location. So those are the things we discuss in order to make sure there is no accident involving the trains. So how to avoid these accidents or derailment, whether it is related to track defects. We are not talking about vehicular defects. We are not talking about operational defects. Rather, we are only talking about track defects. How to get rid of that? If we can go for the proper designing of the track. Arises, the train will be able to move at maximum permissible speed. For that, we need to make sure that the geometric design is done in a proper manner. Last one is ensure minimum maintenance. So why we are talking about minimum maintenance? In that way we can cut our budget, we can cut the cost. We do not need to send the laborers for screening, for fixing, for tightening the things. Last one, that was second last. The last one is good aesthetics. It does not look good. So it is not related to engineering, but there are people who bother about how is the view, how is the look. So we need to make sure that the geometric design also provides good aesthetics. So there are various elements that we talk about in case of geometric design. So this could be related to your project presentation. Like I had the question, what are the things we should include? So it can be related to anything which affect the track geometry. So elements, first one is gradient. There are various kind of gradient that we will be seeing in the next class, but they can be broadly classified into two different categories: upward gradient, downward gradient, which is known as rising and falling gradient. In case of highway and traffic engineering, you people heard about grade compensation. Here also we have grade compensation. Anybody remember where we have gone for grade compensation? In case of highway and traffic engineering, where did we compensate the gradient? Anybody remember? We had something known as ruling gradient with which we design. Okay, that depends upon many things, engine power, this, that. So we said that ruling gradient is the maximum gradient, though there can be extraordinary and other things. But there are certain locations we need to go for compensating the grade. Rather, in other words, I can say that we cannot provide that much gradient. Where? Anybody remember?
Sharp curves.
Yes, sharp curves. Correct. You remember it. Yes, sharp curves. Then we have the alignment, and last one is the curvature. When we talk about in highway and traffic engineering, we need to talk about super elevation. How do we go for designing of super elevation? And last one is transition curve. So you have straight track, you have a horizontal curve earlier. You cannot directly join them because here you have a radius of infinity. Here you have a radius of suppose 300 meter. So the passenger, the driver, everybody will be feeling a jerk here. So that's why we provide a smooth curve which will be joining the transition length of the curve to the horizontal circular curve which is present here. So this portion is known as transition curve. So we had some formula based upon IRC, centrifugal acceleration and other things. Okay, so I think it is 4 already. So you people have to leave for the next class. So we'll start our discussion. We will be continuing with our discussion in the next class. So I'll share the slides, whatever we have discussed so far. And you people